Hey, Trojan family, what is going on? Welcome to the USC LAFB show here on the LAFB network. I'm your host, Ryan Dyrud, back again with you on this Black Friday. Thank you all for hanging out with me. We had our press conference earlier today with Lincoln Riley, final regular season kind of virtual Zoom press conference that we do every week. I'm sure there will be more, I'm guessing, once, bowl season's announced and whatever bowl game USC will be in. So I will make sure to be in those and let you know any updates. But wanted to give a quick recap on today's presser and primarily talk about kind of discipline and this team's discipline, Coach Riley's philosophy on discipline, and kind of where this team actually is in regards to their peers in the form of discipline. So that's the main focus on that. Quickly, though, I did want to just give an injury update because there was two pretty big ones that Riley shared with us, Coach Riley shared with us today, and that comes on the offensive line in terms of both Killian O'Connor and Elijah Page. Both will be out for this game against UCLA tomorrow, 4:30 at the Coliseum. Elijah Page went ahead and had a procedure. He didn't mention what it was, but obviously, it's something to do with the injury that he sustained. And so that procedure ends his season as he now plans to prepare for the offseason. Again, we don't know if that looks like preparing for the NFL draft or preparing to get himself back for the start of either spring or fall camp with the USC Trojans. But either way, his 2025 season is done, virtually meaning that Tobias Raymond will be your starting left tackle tomorrow against UCLA. Killian O'Connor also done for the year, or at least done for this game. He said he did not have a procedure yet, but the plan is to have a procedure that will effectively end his season, including the bowl season. So he'll be done, and Jean-Ray Reed will be your starting center against UCLA. That would lead me to believe they'll stick with Kalen Miller at left guard, although Micah Benuelos, from what I know, should be fully healthy. So maybe they go back with Benuelos, who's played that left guard spot some this season. And then Alani Noah at right guard and Justin Tawanu at right tackle. So pretty much the same offensive line that we saw last week against Oregon should be the group against UCLA, with maybe a flip-flop with Kalen Miller and Micah Benuelos. So we'll see. I'll update you that before the game when the availability report comes out of any questionables. So no update on Kamari Ramsey, no update on Bishop Fitzgerald. Usually, again, Coach Riley only gives us the end-of-season tag if a guy has a surgery or procedure. So all indications are that Bishop Fitzgerald is probably done. I don't want to guarantee that. That could be a change, but just it seemed more than likely that he was. Kamari Ramsey, I think, was much closer last week. And for him, it's going to be, a questionable tag kind of leading to this game if he's able to get out there and finish the season strong before ultimately probably preparing for the NFL draft after that. So those are your biggest injury updates. Again, I will be on all day tomorrow, so let you know either via video or just go to LAFBnetwork.com tomorrow. Go to our message board. That's the easiest way to find it, but I'll have all those injury tags for you, prior to kickoff tomorrow afternoon. Okay, so let's talk discipline a little bit here. So I asked because this has just been a topic I think I'm curious too, but a lot of fans are obviously curious about, and what you see on TV or on the sideline does not always dictate kind of what's happening behind the scenes, right? We all know that. Good or bad or indifferent, that's just kind of a fact. You don't see everything that happens and goes on. So I believe that most, and I don't want to generalize everyone, but I think if anyone asks themselves truthfully, most people quantify kind of discipline, at least at the collegiate level, as, fear almost, right? Like a player being fearful, knowing, and I don't mean like fear, like physical stuff like that. I don't mean any of that, but just, there's a discipline tactic of like, hey, I can't screw this up or I'm going to get my, what chewed out. And it came to light in the Oregon game, which both teams very undisciplined, both teams tons of penalties. I believe USC had 8, Oregon had 10. So a highly just undisciplined game by both sides. But there was a play, and I can't remember the exact play that happened, but Oregon did something. The player got taken out of the game immediately, and you could see Dan Lanning just chewing him out on the sideline. Ultimately, then I don't know how many plays he missed, but then was, taken out of the game. A lot of people see that and are like, look at that discipline. Look at that. That is keeping a player accountable. You're keeping him accountable by chewing him out in front of everybody. Now, that's a style that works for some coaches. That's a style that works for some players. Some players need that. I was not one of those players. I can say that. If I got chewed out, I just shut down. It was okay, I'm done for the game. Not that I'd quit, but it just would mess with me. I couldn't do it. Some players need that. They need that tough love, if you will, to kind of get them going and correct things. Now, this season, I don't want to say it has never occurred, but it's rare that you see a USC player get chewed out on the sidelines. That's just not the style of this staff, not the style of Riley. I think there has been instances, and I'll get into it, where players have been losing playing time. A lot of people like to forget that, but that does happen. But anyway, so that's kind of where the background of this comes from, of why I've been kind of curious into this. And then I know a lot of fans are probably curious too. So I wanted to do some digging for you. So I asked Coach Riley essentially that, what is your philosophy on discipline? You see coaches that have the kind of more in your face approach, and you seem to be more behind the scenes. What's your approach? And so, you can listen to the answer on the USC Athletics, the full answer on the USC Athletics YouTube, but kind of just said, hey, every instance is a little different. Obviously, the most useful approach is taking away playing time. That's the one that resonates most with players. When you take away playing time, that's discipline, right? You want to be out there in the field and you lose that. So he went into that. He went into being consistent, and being consistent meaning, in the classroom, being on time for meetings, how you work at practice, and how you are in games. It's not just if you're not disciplined all throughout the week, it's going to show up consistently in games. And so you have to set a precedent off the field, in the classroom, in the study rooms, in meetings, at team dinners, at team lunches, and then translate that onto the game day field so it all percolates over to that instance. So just that was kind of the answer that didn't exactly say exactly, but mention, playing time is one way that we quantify discipline, and then it's just holding a standard that we want to be consistent with throughout how we run everything in this program. Now, talk is cheap, obviously. You want to see the results. And so I wanted to look into it and kind of, really see what he's saying. Are we seeing that in relation to this team? Because I think most fans out there, at least on Twitter, say this is an undisciplined football team. For sure, after Oregon. That was the big conversation. Now, the Oregon game was absolutely an undisciplined football game. And Coach Riley said that. He said, we've been pretty disciplined this year. Obviously not in Oregon. Oregon withstand it. That was a very undisciplined game overall. Now, remember, that was both sides. So everyone critiquing, and I'm not defending, but critiquing how undisciplined USC was, Oregon was just undisciplined. They had actually more penalties, 10 for 130. The moments were a little different, obviously, and when those things happened, it really kicked USC in the teeth. So, but look through it, and yesterday was one perfect example. And I did a video on it earlier if you watched our recruiting video. Jaquan Morris now is committed to Illinois. Call it a flip, call it a USC backing off their offer, whatever. Essentially, that was USC saying, we have a policy that once you're committed here, you do not take visits. You took a visit. We're no longer offering you to play here at USC. Whatever you think of that, that's holding a standard of discipline, starting at the very beginning in the recruitment phrase. There have been times throughout this season, again, people like to forget because in the moment, people want to see it in the game when someone makes a mistake. People want to see that, okay, this guy made a mistake, hold him accountable. There's been I think it was the Iowa game. I think it was DeCarlos Nicholson. Didn't play the entire first series. It was Marcellus Williams and his counterpart, Braylon Conley, on the outside. Now, I don't know for sure if that was because of disciplinary reasons. Coach Riley was asked about that, and he said, we'll keep it in-house. You can kind of infer probably something happened leading up to the game, that was a disciplinary action taken. There's been times where, not as much this season, but certainly last season, Jacoby Lane, star player, has had limited reps in games. Again, they keep that in-house. We can infer that was probably disciplinary reasons, if I can say the word correctly. So there are examples of it. Everyone just likes to see the, what have you done for me lately? And what have you done for me lately is this team was undisciplined and lost, again, another top 10 matchup on the road. So I get it. It's all going to come out in different lights because of that situation. But overall, this is a fairly disciplined football team. Now, it needs to get better, but overall, it's fairly. Right now, when you just look at penalties, they rank 63rd, so, right about the middle in penalties with, and they average 6 penalties a game. Now, that's with the 8 penalties from last week, so obviously that number jumped up a little bit. When you look at the top teams in college football, so Oregon averages 5.5 penalties a game. Let's look at some of the other. Alabama, 4.9 penalties a game. Illinois, 4.6. Georgia, 4.5. Clemson, 4.4. Ohio State, 4.4. The top team is Iowa at 2.8. That's pretty impressive. Army is 2 at 2.9. It's good to see our United States Army Academy is a very disciplined team. That's great. Minnesota is 3 with 3.5. Indiana, 4 with 3.6. Wisconsin, 3.6. Penn State, 3.8. So USC at 6 is certainly not where you want to be as a top disciplined team. But you also have to look at when those penalties occurred, what type of penalty. Were they aggressive penalties? Were they boneheaded, misguided penalties? And again, take out the Oregon, which you can't just take it out. It happened. It was the most important game of the season, and you faltered in it in that regard. But you remove that, and this team would be in the top probably 25 in terms of penalties per game. They'd drop from 6 to probably in the 4.9 range, which would put them in the top 20. So I'm just kind of laying the groundwork, painting the picture. This is actually a pretty disciplined football team. They just need to be better about being more disciplined in the games that matter the most. And not to go too much down a rabbit hole in this, obviously this Oregon game, there was a lot of inexperience. Sometimes that leads to it. Sometimes there was just bad mistakes. Jacoby Lane chasing the guy off the sideline to try to get the ball back. Sometimes guys just make bad mistakes. Hey, what's going on, LAFB family? Before we get to the show, got to tell you about my friends over at Sleeper. The number one sports app right now, and not just for season-long fantasy. They have daily game updates. They have a live chat that you can chat with other users. Plus, my favorite part is the daily fantasy feature, which is similar to a pick'em. You just choose 2 or more players across any sport. Choose more or less in whatever sport that may be. So if it's football, more or less touchdowns. For Jaden Mayava, if it's Mekhi Lemon, more or less receptions. If you're looking at the Dodgers, more or less home runs for Shohei Ohtani. Really easy, and you can win real money. Right now, when you go and make your first deposit, make sure you use our promo code. You see it right there on the screen, USC LAFB. That's going to give you a matched deposit bonus up to $100. You put in $100 to play with, you're going to get $100 free on top of that. You can put in 10, you get 10 free. Also, right now, our friends are offering a $20 free entry for any new signups. If you go sign up today, you'll get both those offers. You get $20 right off the bat free to play with. Plus, use that promo code USCLAFB at sign up and you'll get that match bonus as well. Go to the App Store, Google Play, download the Sleeper app today, and tell them that the USC LAFB sent you. Now, let's get on to the show. And everyone can yell at everyone and blame everyone. Sometimes you just make a bad mistake. That was a bad one. An undisciplined, kind of uncharacteristic, if you will, situation. Tinook Hines with whatever the flag for the unsportsmanlike after his big catch. He hasn't had any of those, and he probably never will again. So, sometimes there's just mistakes that happen, but overall, this team has been on the up and up of being a disciplined football team. They just do it more behind the scenes, not for the cameras on the sidelines for everyone to see. One more point I wanted to make on this. So I recently just watched, I think it just came out yesterday or 2 days ago, but Bryson Shaw, who used to play for USC, safety, he just started a podcast with one of his former Ohio State teammates, and they just had Kyle Ford on. And it was actually a really good show, really entertaining. I'll put the link below. You can check it out. I think he's just trying to start growing his show. So, show some support there to a USC alum. But, they talked about a bunch of different things, specifically featured on Kyle Ford and his time at USC and whatnot. So there's some good tidbits in there. But one of the interesting things in regards to discipline is Kyle Ford talked about kind of the transition from Clay Helton to Lincoln Riley. And obviously this is back in 2022, and Kyle Ford had already been with the program for quite some time, so he saw this transition happen. And he talked about, loved Clay Helton. He was a player's coach, yada, yada, yada. But there was a difference, a culture shift when Riley showed up, and certainly in the discipline category. And he mentioned that early on, I can't remember the exact timeline, he said, but early on, basically Coach Riley documented everyone that had been late or missed team activities. I don't know if it's necessarily meetings, but he mentioned lunches and dinner. And it calculated 163 misses or tardies or whatever. Accountabilities, I think as he called them. Not being accountable. So they translated that into, these crazy different 163 up downs and this and that and different things, basically saying this ends now. You're not missing meetings, you're not missing lunches, you're being held accountable because that's what the standard we have to set if we want to build this program the right way. So he mentioned that there was a definite shift in accountability and discipline when Riley came. And in that instance, he said, usually when discipline is carried out, whether it's up downs or guys running laps or whatever, it's usually the strength coach that stays after and does that. And he said, no, this was Coach Lincoln Riley in the middle, making us do every single up down. And he said, usually in the past, a coach would have you do 40, 50, and then say, okay, bring it in. Don't make me do this again. Or we're doing all of them. He said, no, we did all 163, and Lincoln Riley was on the whistle for all of them. So small sample size, small story from when he first got here. But I just wanted to share that if you haven't seen that, again, don't go check out that show. I thought it was a lot of fun. But there is stuff that happens behind the scenes that we don't know, myself included. So I do believe that this team is trending in the right path of being a disciplined football team. I think we've seen it a lot this year. There's been some roller coaster moments. And obviously Oregon was one of those bad valleys of discipline moments. But overall, this isn't just some egregiously undisciplined, throw things away type of team. They just need to go from having these low valley moments to always being straight lined. Go from 6 penalties a game next year to 4.2. That's kind of the next step in the maturation process of this program where it needs to go. So anyway, I just thought that was interesting. Let me know what you guys think. I probably rambled too much on it. We'll see how this team looks against UCLA tomorrow. And again, how that discipline looks. And again, sometimes that discipline is different with a player who's not a usual starter versus a guy that is. And I think in the Oregon game, for those that want to see in the moment a guy get taken out, USC just didn't really have the bodies to do that. You take a guy out and you're starting a guy that's never played before then. So sometimes you need the depth to be able to hold accountable. Unfortunately, I'm not making an excuse, but that is an aspect of it. Oh man, well, if you take this guy out, who's playing in his stead? So in the moment, things are a little different. It is how you carry yourself leading up to that and whatnot. Last thing, because I thought this was really cool too. In that interview, which you'll see, Bryson Shaw talks about, he's like, yeah, there's always this narrative, Kelly's soft. And his co-host, who's an Ohio State guy, said it exactly. It's I just hate California. I think everyone's so soft, yada, yada, yada. Bryson, maybe this is, who knows? I don't know why he would make this up. He played for both schools. He transferred from Ohio State. He said, word for word, USC practices are harder than Ohio State's. Now, this was 3 years ago. Maybe things have shifted a bit for both programs. I don't know for sure. But he himself said, practices at USC were more challenging, more difficult than practices at Ohio State. Take that for what you want. More so just saying, we don't see everything. But we do see is the results on Saturdays, and I get that those results have led people to believe certain things. I understand that completely. You can only surmise what you see on Saturdays. So if things on Saturdays look a certain way, you'll surmise that, okay, it's this way because of what's happening during the week. But I do think that what's happening during the week is setting up this ascension. It's been incremental. It hasn't been the Indiana that everyone wants to see. But it has been there. It has grown. It has been positive. So, anyway, enough on that. Let me know what you guys think. Drop your comments below on how you think this team looks. Just the remarks on, the discipline of this team and then trending the right way. And, what discipline looks like to you. Maybe you want to see that more brash approach to discipline. So let me know. Drop your comments. Like and subscribe to the channel, guys. Really appreciate it. If you want to become a member, that is amazing. Huge help. You get some member perks too, including discounted merch like this one here. So you get discounted merch plus some other member benefits. Tonight, 7:30, Tim and the Madman will be live previewing the Victory Bell game. I believe they're going to take some of your calls later on, so jump on that right here at the USC LAFB YouTube channel to make sure to check that out. I am actually going to be at the Rose Bowl. We've got the CIF Southern Section Championship Centennial against Santa Margarita. Obviously, 3 Santa Margarita players are commits to USC, so I'm going to be at that game, see if I can give you any more tidbits of recruiting for these USC Trojans. So everyone enjoy your evening. Again, tonight, 7:30, call-in show. I'll be around all day tomorrow for the Victory Bell games. We'll talk to you all then. Can't wait. And as always, family, fight on.